I always had this dream of one day becoming a mom. At the same time, as a little girl, I also had this strong desire to do well in business. And in 2000, I started out part-time with network marketing. And even though things were growing very slow, you heard Orient's talk in the beginning, I didn't do so well the first year. I decided that I wanted to stick with my plan and work hard because I truly believed that this business was the solution for me to achieve my dreams.
Just in case.
Now in 2008, Orion and I had been dating and then been together for 8 years, and we had been married for 5 years. We decided that this was the time for us to start our family. And even though we tried really hard, nothing really happened before 1.5 years later, right after my 30th birthday. And you know, I had probably taken a dozen pregnancy tests, and then suddenly I took this test and you got this first cross on the test, you know. And I remember being so terrified, but also so happy for the incredible change that was going to take place in our life. Now, 2 weeks later, I'm up in the north part of Norway working with Sæle. And suddenly one afternoon, I start to feel this very incredible pain in my stomach. And I remember I had a business presentation the same evening, and everything went well, but then during the night, I woke up with, again, severe pain. And I remember that this was the first time I spent the night at one young gal's or a lady that I worked with up there in the north. I spent the night at her place, and I was bleeding. And I remember going into her bathroom and silently crying for myself because I knew that I had lost the baby. And you know, after trying for 1.5 years, and I know it's not necessarily so long time, but then finally getting the victory, you know, and you thought that this was the time, and suddenly getting everything taken away again, that was just such an incredible pain. 2 months later, Orion and I are on a holiday in Bulgaria. And on our daily jogging route, I suddenly again start to feel that something is a little wrong with my body. It's not right. But one thing, of course, that the doctor said is that after you've had a miscarriage, it's so easy to get pregnant again. So, of course, my husband is really optimistic, a little bit too optimistic from my point of view. And I feel that something is just not right. 1 week later, we're back home, and one evening when I'm doing my sit-ups, I feel that there's a knot in my stomach. So the next morning, I go to the doctor. She takes the pregnancy test, which is positive, but I'm pregnant outside of the uterus. At this moment in time, we had planned a business trip to Sweden where we're going on a tour for 1 whole week. And those of you that know me or work together with me know that I'm quite stubborn. So I'm saying to Orion, let's go for the trip. It's probably going to be all right. And we go on this, go in the car and we drive to Sweden. And the first day went really well. Second day didn't go so very well, so I get hospitalized. And I have to go through emergency surgery to survive. And I remember that when I'm laying in that hospital bed, this glossy picture is about to burst, and I'm asking myself, can my dream really become a reality? Is it doable? Now, for some of you, you might not relate to exactly this story, but you have different stories in your life. Or maybe you question sometimes, can you succeed with Zinzino? Do you have what it takes? Because you've gotten a few no's along the way. Now, one of the benefits for me, I would say, is that my mindset has always been that I don't need to necessarily choose either or. I do believe that I can have both. I do believe that you can have both a prosperous business career and also a thriving family. But of course, going through these things, you're questioning, is my thoughts, the thing that I've viewed, the thing that I've believed in for so long time, is it really possible? Now, as people are starting out with Zinzino, the reason why a lot of people start out is because we want more time and more money. Isn't that right? And sometimes when you you're doing your daily job, and you've been doing it for a while, you kind of see that, well, even though you will work 20 years, 30 years, 40 years with this, it doesn't necessarily give you more time and more money. So then Zinzino comes, and you see the solution. But then you also realize that for you to actually succeed with Zinzino, you have to invest the time. 10 hours a week, 15 hours a week, sometimes 20 hours a week, of course, depending on how fast and how big results you want. So suddenly, well, you want more time, and definitely more time with your family, but suddenly you realize that you have to sacrifice some time with your family to actually get what you want and become successful in Zinzino. So in other words, the total opposite of what you want. And that can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge. And I believe that as we're building our way to success, doesn't really matter what dream you're aiming for. We all go through an emotional wheel. In the beginning, you have faith. You believe that this is the thing. And as you also have that faith, but you also have some doubt, because you're kind of questioning, is what I've seen truly possible to achieve? But at the same time, you truly hope, because you want it so much, and you become so happy when you get those small victories along the way. Are you with me? But then also you become so disappointed when you realize that some meeting didn't show up, some person said no. And you get really sad when those people that you've believed in and worked so hard together with maybe sometimes quit on their dream. But then because of some coaching, some book you read, some CD you listened to, or some education you've been on, you get this new belief. And you realize, you know what? I'm going to try one more time. Now, the theme for this conference is ambition. You probably realized that by now. And sometimes when we have a specific ambition, we also do believe that there's also a specific route to achieve our ambition. And sometimes it's so hard when we realize that we struggle and to keep our ambition in that particular struggle along the way. And we all go through different struggles during our life. And I've discovered a few things going through both building our business, which at some points has been a little challenging, and also going through this thing. And the first thing is that everything rises and falls on the things you do every single day. Everything rises and falls on your habit. Sometimes you have positive habits, sometimes you have negative habits. Some habits are breaking you down, some habits are building you up. And how you respond and react to the things that are challenging when you have doubt and when you have fear. That's usually based on your habits. And some people are usually reacting with self-pity when something negative is happening, feeling sorry for themselves. But also, there is also some people that react with trying harder. Now, one of the questions I've gotten going through these challenging times is, how have you continued to try? You know what? The reason why I continued to try was because that was my habit. I didn't know anything else, to be quite frank. Like during the business, that's been one of the things that I've been focusing on all the time. When times have been struggling, when things have been going slow in Zinzino, well, our habits, Orion and my habits, has been to sponsor one more person. When customer acquisition wasn't necessarily something that someone wanted to do, go out and do, well, we got out and we got more customers. When finances were tough, many years back in Zinzino, well, our decision was to go out and get investors. And it was to do a lot of corporate work for Zinzino to save Zinzino money. It's been our habits. When we went through miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage, well, we did a lot of research. We went through IVF. We had a lot of sex. And one more thing. Because like I said, very often when you have a specific ambition, you believe that the way you are going to get that specific ambition is through a specific route. Now, I remember the way I thought I would build my career was to become a lawyer. So I thought the key for me was to go to law school, go to university, get a degree, and then work my way up at the ladder of the career of becoming a lawyer. However, when I saw this opportunity, when I saw direct sales, I realized that this was a better way for me. This was a different way, a different route to actually, for me, achieve my dreams. So I remember in 2012, late one evening, Orion and I are sitting around our kitchen table discussing what we're going to target for, what our goals are, what our dreams are. And then we realized that, you know what? There is not necessarily only way to achieve our targets when it comes to getting children. Why don't we apply for adoption? And the truth was that actually, in the beginning of our relationship, one of the discussions that Orion and I had was that I actually sat down with him at one point and said, okay, so if we're going to take this relationship somewhere, I need to know one thing, and that is, would you be willing to adopt? And he was. So I always thought that I, at one point, would adopt. It's just that I thought that I would get my own biological children first. And I know, when we realized and when we made that decision that, well, we could actually file for adoption, suddenly I got this new confidence, this new happiness, this new belief that our ambition was actually possible. So in other words, we did a lot of research, we went through IVF, we had a lot of sex, but we also filed for adoption. And the key is, when a positive habit is developed, that habit will take you to your ambition. It doesn't matter if it's losing weight. It doesn't matter if it's building your muscles at the gym. It doesn't matter you will race to the top in the Cincino compensation plan because of those habits, because mastery always comes through millions and millions and millions of repetitions. Now, one of the things that you've probably heard me say before, and probably Orion and probably a lot of the other leaders too, is that most people have a tendency, if I can get the other slide here, to overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year and then underestimate what they can accomplish in 10 years. Have you heard us say that before? If I were to ask you, do you believe that it would be doable for a person to start with Cincino and work full-time, 40 hours a week, and then achieve 100 customers within their first year? Would that be doable? Yes. Would it be doable? Yes. Would it really be doable? Yes. Of course it would be doable. Now, if I were to ask you a different question, do you think that that very same person could go out and get 10,000 customers within their first 10 years? Some is getting a little doubtful. Now, we are about 1,300 people in this room today. And if each and every one of us went out and we got 100 customers, 10 years in a row, we would get 1.3 million customers. Would be quite fun, huh? And today you might be bold and you say, yes, sure, I could do that. I know that my team could do that. But the reason why a lot of people quit on their way to achieve those 10,000 is because they don't really value the 100. Because 100 is only 1% of the 10,000. However, if you do the math and you say that you grow with 60% every single year over a 10-year period of time, those 100 would suddenly be 10,000. You would at least be an ambassador or maybe a president at that point in time. You would earn 40,000 euros a month. Oh, yes, you can clap for that. But the problem is that most people have this short-term virus. Now, I have the short-term virus. I will tell a little bit more about that tomorrow. Being 22 years old, I definitely had the short-term virus. I remember my husband being 28 years old and also fairly successful at that point. He also had this short-term virus. I remember early in my career, I had this mentor named Michael Klaas, and I asked him, I was quite frustrated at that point. I remember I was like 22 years old, and I felt so frustrated because I saw a lot of people passing me, and I felt that I was kind of like lagging behind. And I felt I was doing everything right, of course. So he responded to my frustration with one single question. He said, Hilde, do you know their whole story? And I was like, what do you mean their whole story? And he said, well, you know, how many people have they sponsored? How many customers have they gotten? How many books have they read? How many CDs have they listened to? How many hours are they working every single week? Who is their 5 closest friends? And when he answered that, I realized that, you know what? There's always a few things that I probably could adjust. I could probably sponsor a few more people. I could probably read a few more books. And maybe my 5 closest friends, maybe I should consider that thing. So we all have this short-term virus at some point. Now, 12 years later, being 34, I would say that in many ways I'm walking in my dreams. Not just business-wise or financially, But as you can see, Orion and I eventually got really, really, really pregnant. Now, some of you are thinking, you know what? I don't believe a squat of what this blonde is saying. It can't be just habits or like long-term vision. It has to be something else to the equation. I'd rather believe that the people that succeed are the one with money, the one that has the money to invest in their business, and I don't have the money. I'd rather believe that the people that succeed, they just got lucky. They sponsored someone that just did the work for them. I'd rather believe that, you need certain skills to succeed in network marketing. I don't really have those skills. Or maybe you believe, you have to be that social, outgoing type of personality. I'm not that. Well, this is the third key. Deception. You know what? A lot of people are deceived. Never, ever, ever believe that the people you see on this stage has something that you don't have. Never believe that the successful people that you hear about out in the world don't have or has something that you don't have. It's deception. You're being deluded. Now let's look at a few things. Now, a lot of people believe that the average IT millionaires in dollars is living in their dorm room, wearing sneakers and saggy pants and a hood jacket. Really? According to research, the average IT millionaire in dollars are actually 54 years old. Now, at 54 years old, when you're 54 years old, it's a long time since you went to college. Now, another deception in our profession is that people believe that you need to be this social, outgoing type of personality. Now, a lot of people have heard Orrin Woodward. We had him on our leadership training last year, right? An incredible speaker, an incredible network marketing leader. When Orrin started this business, started in this profession, he was the geekiest geek of an introvert. A lot of you know about Tom Schreider, an icon in our profession. The reason why he didn't quit for the first 14 months? It was because he didn't speak with any people. He didn't know that he could quit. Now, I remember when I met Randy Gage for the very first time, being 21 years old, I was so surprised that he was so shy. He was this network marketing guru. I thought that he would be this social type of personality. Now, we could talk about people in our own team, in our own company. Finn Olav. He's not necessarily the most talkative person, but he's still the person in Orion and my team that are earning the most money. Now, Ebe, he believes that he's a red personality, but he's also a little bit of yellow sometimes, so sometimes he has to be careful that people don't run over him. Kim, that you saw on stage, our amazing ambassador, he's not a listener, he's more a talker. And he could talk for hours if he gets the chance. Peter, so skilled, so talented in so many areas. But you know what? Without his beautiful wife, Pernilla, he's not necessarily the natural talent with people. Eivind. Yes, I would say that Eivind is a friendly people person. Mikko, he loves people. Mano, well, he's a social guy, but very often you will see Mano in a corner with his computer making some engineering things. Asgeir, our amazing leader from Iceland. To be quite honest, during the first year, we actually thought we had to unwire the cables to his computer to actually get him out of the house. He is the prototype of an analytical green personality. Now Gudrun, she loves action, and she likes to throw a party. Daniel, well, you know, when you meet Daniel for the very first time and you see his big smile, you just have to like him. But also, when he's really focused and really working towards the goal, he has to be careful not to run over people. Vidar Evensen from Norway. He's not necessarily the person that goes over to you talking to strangers. He would most likely just wave politely from distance. Jonas, yes, he's a friendly type of personality. Cash, I love Cash, but he is a stubborn red. My hubby, my husband, you know, he's a nerd. He likes to read about neuroscience. That's his most important hobby. And honestly, me, well, a lot of people believe that I'm very social and very charismatic. You know, I'm very comfortable in my own company sometimes. And I'm a control freak. So, hopefully you understand by now, you don't really need to be perfect to succeed in this business. Jari, yes, he's good with people. Tony, I believe that Tony likes numbers and facts and figures. The key is that neither of us are perfect, but we're not deceived. We believe that the way to actually achieve our dreams is through working diligently on our habits and having a long-term vision. That is the key. That's the key. So very often, we believe that to achieve a specific ambition, you have to take a very specific route to achieve your destiny. But the reality is that that is far from truth. And I do believe that one of the keys during this particular weekend is that you open up your mind and you look for alternative routes on how you can achieve your dream in Zinzino. Now, for some of you, you came to this conference believing that you could get to Black Crown by sponsoring 10 people. And when you leave this conference, you understand that, well, most likely that's not going to be enough. Most likely you have to sponsor 40 to 50 people. Some of you believe that it's all about being a great motivator. And even though it's good to be good at motivating people, that's not necessarily the key. The key is to be at service for people. A lot of people believe that the product is not so important, but I can assure you, after you hear the talks about the products tomorrow, you understand that the education about the products and the knowledge you have about the products is crucial for you to actually achieve your dreams with Zinzino and for your team to be excited. A lot of people believe that the key to happiness is to work less. I believe that sometimes the key to happiness is to sometimes work a little bit harder. Yes. And obviously Manu agrees to that. So, look for alternative routes to achieve your dreams. That is one major, very important key. So my glossy picture was getting some cracks along the way. But one thing is for sure, and that was that my ambition survived. And in September last year, Orion and I finally got the papers that we were approved for being adoptive parents to, at one point, a child from South Africa. And we will continue that process as soon as the law lets us continue that process. But you know, even though this control freak here can't really control how things will unfold, and November 3rd, right after Orion and I had been speaking at the Mastermind Conference in Orlando, I took a positive pregnancy test. And right away, I felt that this was going to be all right. And I'm so happy, so incredibly grateful that number 14, that will end up being Orion and my number 1, is with us here on stage. Thank you. You never know. You never know. You never know when your miracle is about to come. Your miracle might be right around the corner. Right around the corner. But in the meantime, you work on your habits and you work on your long-term perspective and never, ever, ever believe that what you do is not worth it. The definition of ambition is to have a strong desire to achieve achievement, success, and distinction in life. And that is the word that separates the normal from the winner. It's the word ambition. And one thing is for sure, you were born to win. Thank you.
Let's go!